I think people are taken with Joe Biden's first number of executive orders, including, I'd like to get your thoughts on the fact that I believe he is doing something around private prisons. Is that not accurate? That they're not, the federal government is not going to be using them anymore?
Well, I teach in a prison, as you know, I have for 10 years. Private prisons are, these are federal prisons, so it's exclusively federal prisons. They're a very small percentage of actual prisons. Most of them are, in fact, run by ICE. They're for undocumented people who are being detained. The problem is the system is privatized, whether the prison is private or not. So everything within the prison is privatized. The medical, JPay, where to transfer money, the global Tel-Link, the food, R-Mart, everything within the system is privatized. And that's the problem. So you have all sorts of corporations, a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, and their lobbyists are all over Washington making sure there's no prison reform, because we have 76% recidivism rate in the American prison system. Within 5 years, they're back in prison. Why? Well, I mean, I give you just one of many, many examples. One of my former students gets out. He's in his early 60s, and they come out of prison with tremendous amounts of fines. When you are sentenced, you are slapped with thousands of dollars of fines. Well, I teach in New Jersey. If you work 40 hours a week at a prison job, you make $28 a month. So every week they'll take out, $2 or something like that towards the fine. Well, by the time you get out, you still owe thousands of dollars. Then all of the traffic violations you had, child support payments, which you weren't able to pay for 10, 20, 30 years, you have to pay, and they've accrued interest. So I have students get out and they have thousands of dollars just in traffic violations. If they can't pay every month, they go back to prison. So this guy, he's in his early 60s. He's been in prison. He was actually a Black Panther leader in Newark, and the Black Panthers, he was framed. Black Panthers across the country were framed everywhere. He was in prison for a bank robbery he talked about but never committed, in essence. But they just convicted him for a bank robbery that never happened. And so he's working 2 days a week. Now, remember, he's in his early 60s. He's working 2 days a week on a construction job in Newark, barely able to hold on. He can't pay his fines. They throw him back in prison. Now he's out. Finally gets out again after several months, and he can't pay it. And so he's on the run. He's homeless. I'm not going to say where he is. He's living in a train station in New Jersey because he doesn't want to go back to prison. He can't get a job, and he doesn't have any money.
Unbelievable.
So but that's just writ large across the whole system. His system is designed to profit off of the least vulnerable. It breaks the families. So you have your incarcerated loved one in the system, and if you want to have phone conversations, and remember that for parents, most of these people have kids, the only connection they have with their children is through the phone. You have to pay in advance, and the families who have no money often have to pay in advance. I mean, it's when you get down to that level, it's you see the tremendous cruelty of the system. Well, but it's it's everything. It's just and that's never reported. It's these people have been rendered, which is probably at least half the country. And the white working class has suffered too. My own family comes from rural Maine. I mean, they haven't been exempt from this. All the mills are gone. The bank in the town where my grandparents were from is boarded up. There's methamphetamine labs everywhere because the only way people can make money, and of course the drugs are a way to deal with a kind of despair. But those stories aren't told on a corporate media that caters to what advertisers want. And so part of the anger, in particular with the white working class, is that their voice has been completely silenced, and that was the attraction of Trump, and their suffering is not documented or even acknowledged, and that's what's so dangerous. I mean, the breakdown of the society. My last book, America: The Farewell Tour, is about the pathologies that. The negative pathologies, what the sociologist Roger Lancaster called poison solidarity, the negative pathologies that arise from a broken system, the opioid crisis, suicides, and the highest rate of suicide are middle-aged white men, the gambling, which is another addiction, sexual sadism, or a completely pornified culture, and hate groups. I spent time with the 3 Percenters and the Proud Boys and these people. because, as the sociologist Emile Durkheim understood, those who seek the annihilation of others at their core are driven by desires for self-annihilation. So we're a deeply, deeply diseased society. It doesn't function. It doesn't work. And my fear, and Biden is already talking about a domestic terrorism law, is that as social unrest becomes inevitable, the cancel culture, and Silicon Valley is at the forefront of this, will become more pronounced to silence these voices. I mean, they're using social media and electronic communications to get everyone who was in that riot, or whatever you want to call it, that mob attack on the Capitol. In the same way, they use those techniques to take down all of the leaders of Occupy.